All right, everybody. Here are my picks for Week 2. Game number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Giants. I've got the Giants winning this one because, quite frankly, they know they're in desperation mode, and it's only Week 2. But the way they played against Dallas, they don't want that to be the tempo for their entire season. And Tampa Bay going to the Meadowlands, I see the Giants playing much better, much more efficient. Greg Schiano has the Buccaneers playing a lot more disciplined, but they're still young, and I think the Giants will actually get the victory on this one. So, having said that, we'll go to the Oakland Raiders at the Miami Dolphins. The Raiders are going to be without Jacoby Ford for the rest of their season, and quite frankly, the Dolphins, whenever they play the Raiders, have pretty much handled Oakland. So, having said that, I'm going to give the edge to Miami on this one. It's a home game. Reggie Bush has been running with a lot of ferocity as of late from last season and in the game against the Houston Texans. I think Tannehill will get his first win. It's going to be in Miami, like I said, and I just think Oakland will. I think Oakland's going to take the L on this one. So I got the Dolphins in this one. The Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've got the Texans, obviously. The Texans are just a much more complete team, offensively, defensively. The way they dominated Miami last week is pretty indicative of what they're capable of when they play it all 8 cylinders, or however that cliche is. Jacksonville has a lot of problems. They have a lot of question marks. They did almost beat the Vikings in Minnesota. Blaine Gabbert played a hell of a lot better than he's played. It's only his second season in, but he was much more improved. However, they are going up against the Houston Texans, and that isn't the Vikings. They have a much more balanced offense as far as pass and run. Their defense is out of this world, and Jacksonville just doesn't have the firepower or the manpower to compete. So Houston, big. Mark that down. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are going to win this one. They realize that they have a ways to go when it comes to competing against teams that actually have winning records or have been winning for the last few seasons. The way they got washed at Baltimore was a prime example of them still being young and just not there yet. However, they're playing the Cleveland Browns. That's all that needs to be said. The Browns have a lot of issues. Brandon Weeden couldn't have had a more tragic debut as a rookie QB. For one, getting lost under the American flag, and then going out and throwing 4 picks and having a 5.1 QB rating. Greg Little is, without a doubt, one of the bigger busts for the Cleveland Browns, and that's saying a lot. And quite frankly, that defense, as good as it is, they're going to be without one of their top players, Joe Hayden. He's going to be serving a 4-game suspension starting this week due to Adderall in his system, and so he's going to be out 4 games. So they just lost one of their top cornerbacks, and they're going up against a team that has a pretty good QB in Andy Dalton and a damn good wide receiver on the come up in A.J. Green. And BenJarvus Green-Ellis is running well. I don't need to go any further with this. Cincinnati wins, and I said Philly was going to beat Cleveland big, and they proved me wrong. They still won, but I don't see Cincinnati having the kind of subpar game that Philly had. So Cincinnati big in that one. Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo Bills. Fred Jackson is out for, I think, a month, if not more. So once again, the injury bug has invaded Buffalo. Ryan Fitzpatrick got all that big money, and he's been handing out interceptions like rice at a wedding. That supposed revamped, new-look Bills defense did absolutely nothing against the Jets, and they got squashed 48-28. The Chiefs are getting back Tamba Hali and Brandon Flowers, two of their key defensive players. And if you watch the game against the Falcons, yes, they got 40 points hung on them, but that offense looked a lot better than it has in a while. And Jamal Charles ran very well and very strong coming off an ACL injury from last season. Matt Castle played a lot better, and it looks like that offense is going to gel pretty well. And Buffalo, I think, already have shot themselves in the foot as far as having a great season. I have Kansas City beating Buffalo at Buffalo, so mark that down. And yes, we have a really good one coming up here. The Baltimore Ravens at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I was going to say Philly in an upset, but I looked back and looked at how the Ravens played the Cincinnati Bengals and just how complete they were. So I'm saying the Baltimore Ravens, they will get out of Philly with a victory on this one. Flacco is playing very well. He is playing like he's the top 5 QB he said he was. And Ray Rice is Ray Rice. That offense is clicking, and then that defensively, they didn't miss a beat, even though Terrell Suggs is out for them. They played lights out. And so I think that's going to be a problem. Vic is going to be scrambling for his life. I think it'll be competitive, but I don't see Philly beating a complete team like the Ravens. So I'm giving the edge to Baltimore here. So moving forward, we have a divisional game in the NFC South. We have the New Orleans Saints playing at the Carolina Panthers. See, this one, man, I'm kind of going back and forth on this one. The Saints defensively still haven't clicked. Spagnuolo doesn't really have a front four as of yet that he can feel comfortable just getting pressure without having to blitz. And that was not any more evident than last week when they let rookie phenom Robert Griffin III basically style all over them and basically go Cam Newton with a W on them. They're going to have to rely heavily on Drew Brees, which if you have watched the Green Bay Packers, you know a bad defense cannot be masked because of an elite QB having to carry the load. Eventually that defense will have to step up. Now, Carolina had a very, very, very shitty game last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their run game was non-existent. However, they're getting back Jonathan Stewart for this game. They're at home, and defensively they didn't play bad at all. You know, you look at the score; it was like 16-10, something along those lines. It wasn't a high-scoring game. That offense stalled. The defense actually did its job. But I think Cam is going to go Cam or Ham or Cam, however you want to call it, however you want to see it. I feel he's going to have a better bounce-back game in this one. Now that he's going to have his two-headed rushing attack back. So I am picking the Panthers over the Saints in this game. And, of course, we go up to Foxborough, where the New England Patriots will be hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Start them if you got them, all Patriots, because Kevin Kolb is going to be the QB for the Cardinals, and I feel Tom Brady is going to have a lot of success, knowing that Kevin Kolb is going to be gifting turnovers for that New England defense and basically making sure Brady's day is going to be a short one. I have New England winning big in this game. I really don't see Arizona putting up much of a fight. They don't really put up much of a fight when they do go to New England. So, Tom Brady, Gronk, Aaron Hernandez, Stevan Ridley, he actually stepped up. So if the Patriots have a running game, then they have that passing game, and then that defense. I mean, Dante Hightower and Chandler Jones stepping up. And they're at home. They're at Foxborough. If you're not Eli Manning, I don't feel comfortable picking your team that's coming into Foxborough. So, New England big. Sorry, Arizona fans. It is what it is. And we go now to Minnesota Vikings, who will be traveling to Indy to take on the Colts. Peterson, you wouldn't have known he hurt his knee if you watched him run last week. Yeah, it was only maybe, he didn't get 100 yards, but heck, he had 2 touchdowns, and he ran like the Peterson of the Peterson that we know now. So, this one's going to be an interesting battle between second-year QB Christian Ponder and rookie QB Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's first home game, I think that's going to help him out a lot more because he's going to be in the confines of his own home. The offense, will be competent. This one, it's going to go back and forth between these two, but you know what? I'm going to say Luck gets his first win today. Andrew Luck will get his first win. I have the Colts over the Vikings in this game. I think the Vikings, they played well at home, but I mean they struggled against the Jaguars to put them away. And I think at this point, I think Andrew Luck is going to do just enough to get the Colts by against the Vikings. So those are the early games. We'll get to the late games. Heck, right now, while we have the time before any of the pregame shows kick off. The Washington Redskins at the St. Louis Rams. This one's going to be interesting because the Washington Redskins, for some reason, have the most trouble playing the St. Louis Rams. I don't know what it is about that team or the location. Heck, even when the Rams went to play the Redskins at JFK, they always had problems trying to put the Rams away. But this time, they actually have a QB that wants to compete. They have a QB that wants to win. And this is rookie phenom RG3 we're talking about here. And the rapport he has with Pierre Garçon and Fred Davis and who he has, Josh Morgan. And if Shanahan will actually stick to this running back, which if you're a fantasy football owner or player, participant, you know never to pick a running back that plays for Mike Shanahan, but Alfred Morris is actually playing very, very, very well for the Redskins. And they're going to St. Louis, and St. Louis almost pulled out an upset at Detroit. That defense looks a hell of a lot better than it has in recent years. Jeff Fisher should be commended for the job he did in sending his defensive stalwarts into Detroit and almost pulling out a victory. They got 3 interceptions off of Matthew Stafford. So, but it was all for naught. Stafford found a way to win, and they did. But they were more competitive defensively, offensively, a little bit more competent. Bradford, he had a pretty decent game. Wasn't something to write home about, but a lot more comfortable in that offense. But they are getting the Redskins, who have a QB that can definitely give defensive coordinators fits and have them staying up late at night. So, having said that, I am picking. I'm going with the Redskins on this one. I like what RG3 is doing. The kid has a lot of talent. He has a lot of heart, and he's a more subdued Cam Newton. I think he likes the stage just as much as Cam, but he's just more low key about his. And I really do think that the Redskins have finally got their franchise QB, and I think he's going to go there and he's going to turn it up. So, Redskins over Rams in this one. Mark it down. Next up, my upset pick of the week. The Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Cowboys are riding high after going to the Meadowlands and pretty much throwing all over the Giants secondary and setting the tone for what they think could be the year that they finally put it together. But they're going to Seattle. And I don't know if anybody has ever paid attention to the Seahawks when they're at home, but they're a totally different team at home. And I'm a Niners fan, and I know watching my Niners play at Seattle is no easy task. You look at what the Saints had to do when they had to go play the Seahawks, even though they were 7-9 at Seattle, and we all know what happened to them. Beast mode, look it up. But last season, look what happened to Philly when they went to Seattle. That place is totally different for the Seahawks when they play there. And this is why I have the Seahawks beating the Cowboys. That's a hostile environment, and it's very difficult to play there. And they just, like I said, they're just a totally different team there. And Romo played well, very well. Brought out a new weapon in Kevin Ogletree. But here's the thing. I think now defenses or the Seahawks have had time to pay attention to Dallas's film from that game, and don't sleep on Seattle's secondary with Earl Thomas back there, ball hawking. This kid is something special, and defensively, I think the Seahawks definitely deserve a lot more credit than they're given. And of course, with Marshawn Lynch, yeah, they're going to be running with Russell Wilson, rookie QB, but he got his feet wet at Arizona, almost beat the Cardinals, but at home, I think the Seahawks will eke out an upset victory here. So I'm marking the Seattle Seahawks as my upset pick of the week over the Dallas Cowboys. Next big marquee matchup is the New York Jets going to Heinz Field to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one's going to be very interesting, and I've had to go back and forth with this one until I realized the key caveat here. For one, the Jets are going to be without Revis Island. Concussion symptoms, they're sitting him out. However, the Steelers may be without Troy Polamalu and James Harrison for this game as well. So both teams could be without, well, the Jets are without, but the Steelers could also be without key defensive players. I was going back and forth with this, but home openers for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last few seasons, they don't lose them. And they're not going to lose this one either. So I'm picking the Steelers to beat the Jets at home and to get back on their winning ways and to wash the taste out of their mouths from going back to Denver, the scene of the crime where they got beat in the postseason, and they're going to go 1-1. So Steelers over the Jets. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers actually played much better, much more efficient ball in their debut game last week against the Raiders. Phillip Rivers didn't have any turnovers. He kept the ball, and he didn't give it away. And that was a huge problem for the Chargers last season, was losing the turnover battle. And the Tennessee Titans, Chris Johnson, I don't know what's going on with him, but he ain't playing well. He ain't playing well at all. He hasn't been playing well since before he decided to hold out for bigger money. And Tennessee is going traveling coast to coast pretty much to go play this game, and I think their body clocks are going to have some problems adjusting to the West Coast time format. And I see the Chargers pulling this one out and going 2-0. So Chargers over Titans. Now it brings us to the Sunday night game between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody knows about the storyline from last year, handshake gate between Harbaugh and Schwartz. But I think that's going to be behind them. They're just wanting to play. Obviously, the handshake gate is going to be a huge marquee storyline matchup. But the bigger picture here is the Lions last season were 5-0 when the 49ers came to Detroit to play them. And a last-minute touchdown ended their undefeated streak and pretty much set the tempo for the 49ers season last season. And I'm picking the 49ers in this one. It's at the stick. It's at Candlestick. And second reason I'm picking them is because the 49ers have beaten the Detroit Lions 8 straight times. They haven't lost to the Detroit Lions since September 26th. Yeah, September 26th of 1995. And I feel that streak continues. Didn't matter how good or how bad the 49ers were, they always found a way to beat the Detroit Lions. I don't see that changing, especially with it being at San Francisco. And if you watch the Niners when they played the Green Bay Packers last week, you know that they're putting it together, not just having a defense, all defense, but the offense is clicking. So you have the offense, the defense, and one of the top 2 special team tandems in the league with Andy Lee and David Akers. So I see it going 9 straight for the 49ers. Niners over Lions. Final game of week 2, Monday night game. We have the Denver Broncos going to the ATL to play the Falcons. 2 high-flying, high-powered offenses here. Peyton Manning is back to being Peyton Manning. You watched him against the Steelers. Hey, what neck injury? He's playing like he's been playing. He's Peyton. But the big story here is the Falcons and their revamped offense and how they just, I mean, they ran roughshod over the Chiefs at Arrowhead, hanging 40 on them. And I think Matt Ryan and Julio Jones has become one of the better QB wide receiver duos in the league right now. But my edge, I'm giving this to the Falcons. It's a home game. It's on their turf. They're going to have the home crowd behind them. And Julio Jones, I think he's going to beast again. So I have the Falcons over the Broncos. So those are my picks for week 2. I'll be back Tuesday to give my what have we learned for all the games that happened in week 2. And if you notice, I didn't mention the Bears and Packers because they've already played. Packers already won. You know that by now. So no need to rehash over that. But yes, stay tuned Tuesday when I have my what have we learned for week 2. So until then, Sager Mason. Enjoy the games, everybody.